Hello, mighty companion. We jamming this morning. This is Earl Purdy. Going to bring you your next Course in Miracles lesson, lesson 13. And lesson 13 is a meaningless world engenders fear. A meaningless world engenders fear. A meaningless world engenders fear. A meaningless world makes you afraid. So let's hear this lesson. Today's idea, a meaningless world engenders fear, is really another form of the preceding idea, except that this idea is much more specific as to the emotion aroused. See, actually, a meaningless world is impossible. Nothing without meaning actually exists. However, it doesn't follow that you will not think you perceive something that has no meaning. On the contrary, you will be likely to think you do perceive it because it has meaning. Recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. The recognition of the meaninglessness of it represents a situation in which God and your ego, the self you made up, challenges each other as to whose meaning is to be written in the empty space that meaninglessness provides. Your ego separated self, its thoughts rush in frantically to establish its own ideas in the blank space, fearful that the void may otherwise be used to demonstrate the ego's own impotence and unreality. And on this alone, your ego is correct. It is impotent and unreal. It is essential, however, that you learn to recognize the meaningless and accept it without fear. If you are fearful, if you are afraid, it's certain that you will endow the world with attributes that the world doesn't possess if you are afraid. In other words, you're going to crowd your world with images that don't exist. To the ego, to the part of your mind that thinks it's a body and separate, illusions which are false ideas are safety devices, as false ideas must also be to you who equate yourself with the ego. The exercises for today, which should be done about 3 or 4 times for not more than a minute or so, at most, each hour and each time, are to be practiced in a somewhat different way from the preceding exercises. In other words, with your eyes closed, repeat today's idea to yourself. A meaningless world engenders fear. Then open your eyes and look around you, slowly saying, I am looking at a meaningless world. Repeat this statement to yourself as you look around. Then close your eyes and conclude with, a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. A meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with my Creator. I know you may find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another to this concluding statement that you are in competition with God. Whatever form such resistance may take, remind yourself that you are really afraid of such a thought that you are in competition with God because of the vengeance that you are afraid of that may come from God, the enemy. In other words, you are not expected to believe the statement that you are in competition, that you're not expected to believe the statement that you think you are in competition with God at this point, and will probably dismiss the idea that you're in competition with God as preposterous. Note carefully, however, any sign of overt or covert fear which it may arouse. This is our first attempt at stating an explicit cause and effect relationship of a kind which you are very inexperienced in recognizing. Do not dwell on the concluding statement about being in competition with God. Try not even to think of the statement that you're in competition with God except during the practice periods, and that will suffice at present. So let's say the lesson for today, which is a meaningless world engenders fear. Let's go. A meaningless world engenders fear. A meaningless world engenders fear. That's the same as saying a meaningless world causes you to be afraid. The perception of a meaningless world causes you to feel afraid. Your perception of a world that doesn't really mean anything to you makes you feel afraid. A meaningless world engenders fear means a world that is meaningless makes you feel afraid. A meaningless world engenders fear. 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 I say a meaningless world engenders fear. 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 That means a meaningless world causes you to feel afraid. A meaningless world causes you to feel afraid. A meaningless world causes you to feel afraid. Perceiving a meaningless world causes fear. Causes fear. A meaningless world engenders 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 fear. So, mighty companions, go to www.earlpurdy.com and check me out. And let peace and joy extend from my mind and my heart to yours.